Welcome to the Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. I have two pushy boys here with me today, Manny and Mark. And our very special guest we are speaking to today is Lucy Joseph from the Live Music Office. Lucy, it is a pleasure to have you today. How are you going?
Good. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
It's good. Look, we have this very human need to gather together, to connect, to celebrate while listening to a live music show. And as a result of lockdown, it's now impossible to any meaningful level for the foreseeable future anyway, or until the government eases restrictions, to get us back to full capacity. Now, Lucy is the program manager for Live and Local Strategic Initiative. Now, what that is, Lucy works with councils across Western Sydney and regional New South Wales to deliver live music events. And it's all about encouraging relationships between council, the community, the live music artists and the businesses, and using live music at a grassroots level. And look, at this time in history where businesses in events, hospitality and music industry have been, let's just say it, decimated, a program like Live and Local is really going to help redefine what our industry looks like as we go into recovery. So, Lucy, I guess I'd really like to start with asking you just to tell us a little bit about your program Live and Local.
Sure, yeah. So, look, Live and Local was developed over a number of years, starting with the Sydney Fringe Festival. Actually, the model that the program is based on was first kind of implemented for Sydney Fringe, where they activated various unusual spaces with musical performances. And so from there, this program has been developed, which, as you were saying, is all focused on kind of grassroots development with often kind of new and emerging musicians, but musicians who very much practice and work within their local community. So it's basically a comprehensive capacity building program. So there's a number of stakeholders who are involved. We work with local councils, as you were saying, but the program's really for to kind of build that capacity in the professional development and the experience of musicians, as well as local business owners. And so the idea being that we want to activate more performance spaces. And so to do that, we need all of these different stakeholders involved. We need business owners who kind of recognise the value of live music as part of a business model and the role that it plays in the local economy. But then we also need those local musicians they need the practical experience of performing, and they often also need this element of professional development as well. So the program's kind of made up of three main parts, and we work with councils who facilitate the relationships between the other stakeholders, these business owners and these musicians, to deliver a series of micro festival events. So we refer to micro festivals because they are they're almost entirely within local businesses rather than closing down any streets. There's no street closures. There's no major infrastructure built either. So no kind of no stages or anything. Yeah. The idea is that you engage a number of businesses within a kind of precinct within the community, and it's no cost to them. All they have to do is provide the space for the musicians to perform. So they're hosting these local musicians. And in doing so, are kind of establishing this network of essentially new performance spaces. The idea being that strength in numbers. If everybody works together, if everybody is programming music at the same time, you instantly form this precinct of live entertainment that people can access really easily. And of course, it's free. It's free for the public to access. But what they're doing is, they're coming to see this event that's been organised, it's advertised. It might be in a cafe or something like that, or a bookstore. They come to see the performance. They might buy a coffee while they're there. The idea that it's stimulating, the local economy and but also stimulating this social interaction as well, which I think, in this point in time is severely lacking and will definitely be needed in the coming months. So there's the micro festival events, which provides all the kind of practical side of what a thriving live music scene in a local community looks like. But then we align those with a series of professional development workshops. So we take those local musicians and those local businesses, and we connect them with industry professionals who can give all this valuable information and advice and mentorship about really basic things like business basics like invoicing and artist agreements and how to work with venues and how venues work with artists and how to market and brand yourself and copyright and royalties, all that kind of stuff that's really important, particularly as an emerging musician. You need to kind of know those business basics because you are essentially running a small business. So we give them all of that, the theory side of things, as well as the practical experience of performing and honing their craft and their performance. And then on top of that, the third kind of element of the program is an industry, like a local industry forum that we facilitate, where we get everyone in a room, not just the musicians and the business owners, but also council as well. We get council departments like economic development, events, comms, tourism, youth and community engagement, get everybody into a room and talk about what does a successful and thriving local live music scene look like, and how do we practically get there? What kind of practical steps can we put in place to get there? And that actually involves some work from council. So the reason why we partner with council specifically is because, in the broader sense of the work that the Live Music Office does, we provide consultation and guidance to state and federal and local government bodies around better policy and regulation implementation. So, there's for maybe the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a decline in, the amount of performance spaces, particularly those small to medium venues, just because of an incremental kind of building of regulatory frameworks and policy that's incoherent. It's built more red tape. It's made it kind of harder for those venues to exist. And so we get these local councils involved with this whole process because there is a lot that they can do at that local level in terms of policy development that supports the growth of their local scene. So, but it's much more effective to kind of take them through the practical experience of engaging with those musicians, engaging with those businesses, seeing what live music looks like practically, and the audience engagement as well. And from that, from all of that experience and from the engagement through the industry forum that we run, they can gather all this information that then goes into developing a live music action plan. So something actually tangible at the end that council can contribute to that growth kind of long term, beyond the duration of this project. So so it's multifaceted. There's a lot of moving parts, but that's kind of been developed over a number of years of working with different councils and seeing how the model fits within their unique circumstances. And look, out the other end, there's a bunch of outcomes. Some of them are different for different councils because of the kind of unique characteristics of that community. We've worked with councils as big as Parramatta and as small as Tenterfield Shire Council. So how the program works for them is going to be different based on their capacity and their resources and the community that they're responding to. The idea is that the model of the program is flexible, so we can kind of, chop and change however suits those communities.
Wow,
so, yeah.
That's amazing for live artists to have access to that. Mark?
Yeah, look, it's...
Oh, sorry.
Yes, of course.
I was just going to jump in there and just go, look, as a high-level champion of live music, what changes do you envisage in the music industry as a result of the COVID lockdowns?
Well, look, it's been a really tough time. It's been pretty dire. I mean, before all of this, there was always a struggle with music venues, the viability of opening a music venue and then sustaining it. All was a really tough time for a lot of people, just because of the the regulatory environment that they're working in, this constant kind of challenge with residential development, urban development, generally speaking. So COVID is just the enormous straw that's breaking the camel's back, really. There were a lot of challenges before this, and now if you take away the actual consumer dollar, if it's just not there at all, it's been a really, really hard time for a lot of venues, particularly those smaller to medium venues. And it's going to take a really long time to bounce back, I think, compared to other sectors. There's a lot of infrastructure that's been lost, a lot of talent and personnel, like in the staff, that's been fostered over a number of years. So getting all of that back is going to take a really long time. Exactly. Although, in a positive sense, I think that that the consuming audience, I think, is really keen to get back out there and be back and engaging with live music. And I think that the positive of that is something that we should kind of focus on, that as soon as we're ready, as soon as we're, social distancing measures are lifted and we're back to a safe and healthy environment, I think that enthusiasm should be harvested. And I think there's going to be a lot of enthusiasm for live music, and particularly at that local level. I think people will want to be engaging with their communities and with each other quite quickly. So, so I think that we're just trying to remain positive about those kind of things.
Exactly. Yeah. Manny.
Well, Lucy, I think you've highlighted, some real specifics, that the music industry is an enterprise in itself, and it's a very complicated creature. And there are just so many moving parts to what we have. I guess why we're doing this podcast is we've been in the industry now I'm touching 35 years in the music industry at various levels as well. So what I wanted to do was, what I'm noticing is, from a sporting point of view, that there are peak bodies and lobbies that are all coming together, they're co-efficient, and they're getting an outcome. Similar with the hospitality lobby, there's a QHA, then there's a New South Wales hospitality industry, and they're larger co-efficient forums which are getting outcomes. Unfortunately, in the music industry, we're such, as you've sort of highlighted, we're a very complicated niche of entities, and there's no real cohesion. So what we wanted to do was to join the dots, or somehow join the dots and connect people like yourselves who are, sort of fostering one enterprise, versus Music Victoria, say government bodies and ministers as well, and say, hey, let's bring all of us together so we can create one unified front for one unified mission to make sure that there's the plan afoot. Because what we're finding is we have so many entities coming together, but there's not one spearhead like in the government. So, I guess, thank you for coming on board and, highlighting what you're doing. How do we, so my question is a broader question, noting that we are as fragmented as what we are in so many niche markets, how do we bring these together into one co-efficient module to move forward for the music industry, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Luke. There we are.
There she is. Back. Yeah.
Look, it's a that's a big question, because you're right. It's I think that's one of the unique things about our industry, is that there are so many moving parts. It's this very complicated ecology that very much depends on all parts being healthy in order to function properly. Look, I think, the work that we do in terms of advocacy is just one part of advocacy for, a number of sectors, where we very much focus on that, the venue-based sector. But as I was saying, the venue-based sector is very much connected to, artists and managers, touring companies as well. They all kind of have their own information to bring to the table. We kind of saw it in the early stages of lockdown with coronavirus that there was actually quite a big coming together of representatives from different sectors of the music industry, facilitated by bodies like APRA AMCOS, those kind of peak industry bodies. Because I think everyone recognised that this was a rare event where it would affect absolutely everybody, and so there was a really fast and quite efficient response to the lockdown happening, and the information and advice that we were giving to government was only done through like a really quick response. Things like I lost my gig was created really quickly to identify that need, that we needed to know exactly how this was going to affect the industry, and just a really effective platform of communicating with about 40 different people from all over the industry from different sectors. We came together really quickly, facilitated through APRA, and we're able to have a really impactful conversation and identify exactly what we needed to take to government, and then respond to the stimulus packages that were going out to say, okay, well, how does this affect us in particular? How do musicians who are casual workers, or how do staff at venues as casual workers, how do they benefit or not from this stimulus package? The pace with which we were able to analyse the government stimulus packages, what they meant for the industry, and then engage industry to get their feedback, and then send that back up the line to government. It happened so quickly and much more efficiently than I think we've seen previously with how the industry works with each other, because I think this was the first time that we'd faced a challenge of this magnitude, and that was so far-reaching, that affected absolutely everybody, top down, left to right. It was amazing to see.
No, it's great.
It has been a challenging time to say, but as you say, we've actually banded together in our, I guess, our dysfunctional way to come together to get some form of outcome.
Yeah.
We do have Support Act, soliciting and like a lobbying for funds, APRA, AMCOS, and there's a whole bunch of other mechanisms that are all chasing them. The unfortunate reality is that it's a nondescript industry, and there are just so many individuals working under so many conventions that a lot of our musicians that we work with fall between the cracks, which is really interesting. Right. And they don't actually know how to, am I job keeper? Am I job seeker? Am I social security? Where do I fit what mechanisms? And as you say, it's been an education point from our point of view to actually empower those musicians to actually say that you are part of an industry and you are valid. Here's where you need to go to get your support, because as I mentioned, the sporting fraternity, it's all together, one unified front. They know who they are, what they're doing, their players at all levels, and they have a swift lobby in the government. So in a roundabout way, having people like yourself that is doing what you're doing has really helped us with an incisive mechanism in the government and funding for our industry. So thank you, Lucy, so much for that. Yeah. Really appreciate that.
Really. Thank you.
And I think what I love about your website is you provide so much resource, not just for artists, but for venues. And it gives them this broad range of opportunities to really dig deep into the entire spectrum of the music business. So I will make sure I put a link into the Live Music Office website. It's invaluable. Anyone who's watching this, make sure you go and take a couple of hours to go through the website. It's an incredible resource. So Lucy, thank you so much for talking to us. I know you're battling with the whippersnipper back there. So, all right.
Well,
And look,
Some things never stop.
it's just, look, hey, the world has to go on. So, look, Lucy,
Exactly.
thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Good luck with what you're doing with Live and Local. We'll be watching out for that. And, boys, thanks for joining us today, and we'll leave it there. Thanks for everyone. That's the Music Reel. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you.